What's up everyone? Welcome to Mammoth Interactive's Introduction to Unity Prefabs. So in this series of videos we're going to learn what are prefabs and what is their use, okay? So basically they are something that can be reused later. If you want to make an explosion effect, or maybe you want to save a coin, you want to make an enemy, instead of making multiple enemies in the actual scene of Unity, we can just make a prefab and then just replicate it, okay? Instead of making 100 enemies, we can just make one and then keep replicating it 100 times, okay? Instead of 100 bullets, we just make one bullet and keep copying and pasting it in the scene, okay? So this is very useful for well, basically tuning your game to whatever effect that you want to give, okay? If you want to make it look easier, make it look harder, we can just transform things into prefabs and adjust them accordingly. My name is Glauco Pires, and I've been working in the game industry since 2010, and over all of these years I've learned how to work with different tools and technologies. So I've worked a lot with Unity, with Flash games, HTML5 games. I also work with Unreal and coding in C#, in Java, JavaScript. So I have a lot of experience that I'd like to share with you and only get the best bits of this experience. So you're going to learn straight away what all of the things that we're going to do here, whatever is necessary to achieve this effect, okay? So basically we're going to learn how to shoot this bullet to hit the wall, and once we hit the wall we add this little particle effect here, okay? So I hope you're excited to start this, and I'll see you soon. Hello everyone, welcome back. So to start working on this, we need to create a new project so we can start dealing with our prefabs. So first of all, we have to set the project's name here after you click on New. We're going to name this Unity Prefabs. The location of the project is going to be a projects folder under my home folder, and I'm going to leave the rendering mode as 3D. And after that, select Create Project. After you click on this, just wait a little bit for Unity to open. Okay, so since you are on this lesson, we assume that you already know a little bit about the Unity editor. If you don't, there are other tutorials that we made available so you can understand more about the Unity editor and things like scripting, for example. So to make this work, we're going to make a very simple scene in here. Okay, we want to make a simple floor. We're going to make a simple wall, and the interaction that we want to do is to spawn a bullet, okay, and make that bullet to move towards the wall. So first of all, we need to create two 3D primitives. Okay, we're going to our hierarchy window, we right click, select 3D object, and then cube. So we have one cube game object in our scene. Okay, and now we have to adjust a few things. First of all, let's change its position from the one that it is right now here to 0, 0, 0. So it's in the center of the scene. And since this is going to work as a floor, we need to make it look flat. Okay, we need to change the dimensions of this cube in the 3 axis, in the 3 degrees that you can change. So we're going to change it in the horizontal axis, vertical axis, and depth axis. So in the horizontal axis, which is the value x, we're going to use 6. For y, we're going to use something very small, so that can be 0.01. And for z, we should use 20. Okay, this should work good enough. And if you take a look, we not only have this cube that was added in the game, but we also have a camera and a directional light. They were added by default as we made a new project. And if you select the game window, you now see that the camera is at the limits of this floor. Okay, so we're going to look at it like this. And let's also take this moment to select our main camera and move it to a higher position, like 2, for example, or better yet, 1.65, some average human height. Okay, let's also change the name of this floor. Okay, so we have it saying cube right now. We're going to select this text, name this floor, and hit enter, so this is saved. And we also want to change the color of this floor. Okay, right now it's just plain white, and this happens because this primitive that we added comes with the default material in Unity, so we have to create one of our own. So you go to our project window, we right click, select create, and then material, and this is going to be named floor material. After that, we want to change the color of this material, so we click on this white rectangle and let's select something like a dark brown, okay, like this one. And now that we have this, we just have to drag this material and drop in the floor in the scene window. Okay, so this is what we have. We have one simple floor. And now we want to make a wall. So we're going to do a process very similar to what we did right now. We're going to right click, select 3D object, then cube. Okay, we have another cube here in our scene. Let's change this position to 0, 0, 0. The scale on X is going to be, let me see, 6, 2, okay, or a bit smaller, 4. And on Y, it can be something like 6. Okay, so it's going to look like this. If you look at the game window, we just have this simple floor here. Okay, and to change its color, let's make another material, which is going to be named wall material, and we choose another color. So maybe a light blue, like this one. So you drag and drop, and there we go. We have a floor and a wall. So what is the interaction that we want to do here? We want to make this camera to shoot a bullet towards the wall. Okay, so how do we do this? Again, in our hierarchy, we have 4 game objects. We have the main camera, directional light, the floor, and this wall. Okay, let me rename it to that. Okay, and what are prefabs for? They're extremely useful when you're making games, because prefabs are things that can be reused. Okay, it's like we have a game object, like the floor or the wall, for example, and we're going to save it in a file, in a special file stored somewhere in your assets folder, and that file can later be re-added to your game. Okay, this is very useful for things like particle effects, for coins, for enemies, things that are going to be replicated all the time. Okay, so it would be very difficult to list all the things that could be replicated, because lots of things in games are replicated. So for instance, if you have an infinite runner, you notice that there are some parts of a game in an infinite runner that repeat themselves. Okay, it's like we're talking about blocks. So these things, they keep replicating while you're playing the game, and the difficulty of the game is going to be difficult every time, every match that you go on. Okay, so that's pretty much the use for prefabs. And one of the simplest uses for prefabs is to make a simple bullet, and we want to shoot a bullet in a straight direction. Okay, so to do this, this is what we're going to do. We need to design the bullet first in our hierarchy window, okay, in the scene, without it being a prefab. So we're going to make a very simple element here. So in our hierarchy window, we're going to right click, we're going to choose 3D object and then sphere. Okay, so we have one sphere sitting down in front of the wall. Let's change its position to 0 on X, 1 on Y, and Z to -8. So it's going to be in front of the camera like this. And right now, this sphere is a bit too big, so let's change its size to 0.3 on all axes. So it's going to be small, okay, like this. You can even make it a bit higher, so in position 1.5, and Z -9. Okay, I'm just trying some numbers here to find a value that is going to be good. Okay, so we have this sphere right here. Let's rename it to bullet, and let's create a material to it. So create material, bullet material, and we're going to change its color to yellow, so it's very easy to see. Okay, a bit green. And now we get this material, we release in the bullet, and the bullet's now colored. Now we want this bullet to be propelled towards the wall, okay, whenever it's in the scene. And to do this, we need to activate physics, because this is what happens if you press the play button. Okay, the editor is a bit darker, then we have to wait a little bit, and the game window is now live. Okay, this is the actual game, and you see that nothing special is happening here. We just have one bullet that is standing still, and well, it's not being propelled forwards. And before making it propel forwards, we need to activate physics for this bullet, otherwise it won't move at all. Okay, and to do this in Unity, we have to specifically tell that this is going to respect physics. So we click on Add Component, and in this search box we're going to type rigid body and select rigid body. Okay, you're going to see that rigid body is a component that contains settings regarding physics, like mass, drag, angular drag, and if this is going to use gravity or not. Okay, and just by doing these changes, by adding this rigid body, if you press play, the bullet falls. Okay, so it seems a bit fast right now, but if we move the bullet a bit closer to the wall, you're going to see. Okay, it's just because it loads and it's a bit fast. So you see that the bullet is falling. Okay, so let's move it back to the position -9. Okay, now that we have this, we need to find a way to apply some force to this bullet so it's going to move forward. And to do this, we need to write a script for it. Okay, because since this is something very specific, it varies from the game you're playing, then this needs to be written by us. So we're going to the project window, we right click, select create, and then we choose C# script. This is simply going to be named bullet. Then hit enter. Let's wait for the code to be compiled, and once it's finally compiled, we're able to access it. To open this script, we're just going to double click it. And after we do this, MonoDevelop is going to open. It's a coding software that already comes with Unity. It's completely free, it's open source, and it works just fine. Okay, and after we open, we have our bullet script here. So as you might have seen in other classes, we have the class definition for the bullet. Okay, so whatever we write here is going to change how this bullet is going to behave. And we have a list of methods here, like start and update. So what we want to do here is to make a logic to propel the bullet forwards. So to do this, we need to access the rigid body component. Okay, remember, if you are on the bullet and you run the bullet script, okay, by the way, let's attach this right now. So I'm going to grab the bullet script, drop here, and there you go, the bullet script is here, and we are in this scope. Okay, we are in the bullet script. We need to get access to the rigid body component, and once we are in the rigid body component, we're going to apply some force. So to do this, here in the start method, we're going to type get component, then we need to specify the type between these two characters here, and the type of the component that we want is rigid body. Okay, then we open and close parentheses, as this is a method call, and we're going to type dot add force. Okay, so we need to add the force to make the bullet to move in a certain direction. Now, the direction of this force, we can make things simple. Okay, we can just type here vector3 dot forward. Okay, this is the direction where the bullet is going to move to. But we need to kind of scale this vector, so we're going to make it move with a stronger force or with a smaller force. So to tune this, we can make a variable here that can be easily used by us, so we can tune this bullet. So we can type here public float shooting force, and we can start by setting this as 10f. Okay, and here where we typed vector3.forward, we're going to add multiplied by shooting force. Okay, and we can save this script. Once we go back to Unity and we wait for this code to be compiled, you're going to notice that there is now a shooting force field in the bullet. So you can change this to make the bullet to shoot with a stronger force or a smaller one. So right now, if we press the play button, the bullet kind of just falls, okay, to where it was. The force was too weak on this one. So if we try 200 this time and press the play button, you see that the bullet went a bit further on. Okay, now let's try 500. We keep trying values that are going to make sense to us, okay, until we find something that is going to be fine. So maybe 1500, okay, 1500. Okay, and this was strong enough to hit the wall. Okay, so, well, this is good. Okay, we can start moving on. But the thing is, when the game starts, we already have a bullet here. Okay, this doesn't make sense because bullets only appear if you shoot. Okay, if you give some sort of input to the player for the bullet to be shot. So what we want to do is to transform this bullet into a prefab. We're going to make it into a unit that can be reusable. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to grab this bullet. Okay, we're going to drag it and drop in the project window. And if you notice now, we have a bullet element in our assets folder, and it's named bullet.prefab. So we successfully made a prefab for the bullet. We can even delete the bullet that we have in our hierarchy, in our scene, because the information is already saved in bullet.prefab. Okay, and now you might ask yourself, okay, we don't have a bullet, so how do we make it to be shot? Let's make a few adjustments. First of all, we have a main camera here. Let's treat it as the player. Okay, we're going to imagine that this camera here is the player itself. Okay, it's like we are seeing this game in virtual reality. Okay, it's like you're standing here and you're going to shoot a bullet. So what we want to do is we want to rename this camera as player, and we want to make a script for it. So we go to the project window in the assets folder, right click, create C# script, and we're going to type player. Okay, so we have the player script. After the compilation is complete, we're going to attach the script to the player. So we drag and drop, and now we can do with the player. And now instantiating in Unity is very simple. Okay, this is what we want to do. In the player class, we want to make a variable that is going to store a reference to the prefab that we want to instantiate. So we're going to type public game object bullet prefab. Okay, so we have a variable called bullet prefab. It's going to store a game object, and it's going to be public, so we can change this in the Unity editor, not in the script. And we have a semicolon to finish this statement. Once you save this and go to Unity, we should be good to go to reference the bullet prefab. Okay, so we select the player in the hierarchy. We now have a field called bullet prefab, and now we just select the bullet, either by clicking here in this little circle here and choosing the bullet from this list, or none, or I prefer to do this, I just drag the bullet prefab and drop it here. Okay, so the bullet prefab now has a reference, which is great. And now, how do we instantiate this bullet? If you go to the start method and we just type instantiate and between parentheses bullet prefab, this should be enough. Instantiate is a method that every mono behavior, okay, so every script that you create is going to have access. And it receives this parameter here, which is the game object that is going to be cloned, that is going to be instantiated. Okay, so we instantiate the bullet prefab right in the start, and at this moment we should have more or less the same effect than what we had before. If you press play, the bullet is instantiated and it moves forward to the wall. However, we want to make this a bit smarter, so we want to make the player to only shoot the bullet if they click with the mouse button. Okay, so we can go to the update method this time, and we want to listen if the player is clicking. Okay, so this is what we're going to type. We're going to type if, let's open and close parentheses and open and close curly braces. So what are we doing here? We are in the update method, so this is going to be called every time. We're going to make checks every time. Here we make a conditional block, so we're going to ask a question, and if that question is true, we're going to do something. The question that we want to ask here is input.getMouseButtonDown with 0 as a parameter. So we access the input class of Unity, and we want to know if the mouse has just been pressed, and this is important. Okay, if you use getMouseButtonDown, this would return true on every frame your mouse button is being held down. But if we use this one, getMouseButtonDown, it's going to return true in the exact frame you press the mouse button, and then you have to release it and press it again. So this is going to happen again. And now we're going to cut this line here where we instantiate bullet prefab and put it here. So the bullets only appear now if we click with the mouse button. Okay. Now we save this, go back to Unity. Now we're going to wait for this compilation to be complete. And now we press the play button. We are on this scene here. Apparently nothing is happening. But now every time we click, a new sphere is spawned. Okay, a new ball is spawned. So now you might see that all the bullets are going to the same place. Okay, they don't kind of never fall to the left or to the right because they're perfectly aligned. So in the next video, let's make them move to different positions, okay, to slightly different directions. Okay, so let's take a look on how we offset where the bullets are moving to. So if we go to the script of the bullet right now, we're going to see that its start method is going to set the direction where it's going to move. So that's going to be vector3.forward. So it always goes to the same direction. But what if we want to change this direction? And better yet, what if we want to make something else to be responsible where the bullet's going to be aimed to? Okay, so this can be easily done when we spawn a prefab. Okay, when you create a script for the bullet and you generate a prefab, it doesn't mean it's never going to be modified again. Okay, it's not a closed box. You can normally, as it was a normal game object, in fact it is just a game object, you can just access and change its properties. So this is what we can do. In the bullet, we can make a new variable here. We're going to type public vector3 shooting direction. Okay, and let's not initialize it with anything. And here where we say add force, we're going to replace this forward vector3.forward direction to shooting direction. Okay, so right now shooting direction is just a vector 3 that is going to be 0, 0, 0, as this is the default here. So we have to change this. Okay, we need to make a few adjustments to that. So now the player is the one responsible for changing where the bullet prefab is going to. Okay, so right now we just instantiate it, but we don't modify anything on it. So we need to learn how to do this. And what we can do is this instantiate method not only instantiates an instance of this bullet prefab, but it also returns what we just added. Okay, so if you hover your mouse on instantiate, you're going to see that it's not a void method like start or update. It's a game object method, it returns one. So here we're going to type game object bullet object equals to instantiate. Okay, so that means we access the bullet's game object. But notice something. One thing is the bullet object, and another is the bullet component. Okay, the bullet's component is what we can actually use to change the shooting direction or the shooting force if we want. Okay, this can be easily done. But now in the player, what do we need to do to access the bullet's component? We're going to do something very similar to what we did to find the bullet's rigid body. We're going to use this getComponent method call. So here in the player, we're going to type bullet with uppercase B, as this is the class, and then bullet lowercase b, as this is going to be the variable name, equals to bullet object dot get component of type bullet, which is exactly what we want. We want to access the bullet component. And now if we type here bullet dot shooting direction equals to vector 3 dot forward, we should have the same effect in what we did right now. Okay, we're going to save that vector. Okay, let's save the script, wait for the compilation, press the play button, and now once we click, it behaves the exact same way as it was before. Okay, but now we have the freedom to use the player to define where the bullets are going to be shot to. Okay, so this is what we can do. Instead of using vector 3 dot forward here, we can define our own vector. Okay, if you take a look on the player, okay, and if you consider this to be vector 3 dot forward, okay, it just points there. This works as a direction, and there is an essential difference between what is a point and what is a direction. Both of these things, they are represented by the structure vector 3, which is it's consisted of the x value, the y value, and the z value. Okay. However, if you want to move to other directions, you have to change that. It's like you are rotating this camera to make this blue arrow to point at other directions. Okay, and there are plenty of ways to do this, but still, the thing is, this direction here is a vector 3 of size 1. Okay, imagine it's just an arrow, and this arrow contains, its size is basically 1 unit. So whenever we are dealing with directions, we need to be very careful that we're going to use something that contains the size of 1. Okay, because since we're going to multiply this direction with a certain value to scale the force that is going to be applied, the calculations are going to be executed correctly. You might have some weird issues if you don't adjust the vector to have the size of 1. Okay, sometimes it seems like we're pointing to a certain direction, but then the bullet would move a bit more to the left or to the right. Okay, so just to make sure we don't have any problems with calculations and rounding operations and things like that, we need to make sure that the vector is size 1. And to do this, we're going to run an operation called normalization. Okay, so here where we define vector 3 dot forward, let's type new vector 3. Okay, so this is the constructor for the vector 3 structure, so we can build a new vector. Okay, let's start by typing 0, 0, and 1. Okay, so we build a new vector that is basically the same result as vector 3 dot forward. It's a vector that points forward. But if we want to make the bullet to move a bit to the left, we could change this to something like 0.3f, for example. And if we want to make it move a bit up, we can change this to 0.2f, for instance. Okay, but the important thing is, this is not a normalized vector, so we can't change this shooting direction just yet. So instead of setting it right now, we're going to type vector 3 shooting direction equals to that. Okay, so we built the vector here, and now we can type bullet dot shooting direction equals to shooting direction, which is this one we defined here, dot normalized. So if you see the summary of this normalized property is going to be saying returns this vector with a magnitude of 1. Okay, so it's going to be in the exact size that we want. And now we save this, we go to Unity. Now let's wait for this compilation to complete. And now we're going to press the play button. So the camera is here, we're clicking, and notice that the bullet is going to the top right, okay, because we changed the direction where we are shooting these bullets, okay? Now that we have this, let's make this a bit more interesting, okay? We already see that 3 and 2 are values that are too big, okay? The bullets are kind of going away from the wall. So we want to use random numbers here. Let's type random.range. And between parentheses, we have to set the minimum value and the maximum value. So we type minus 0.15f and positive 0.15f. Okay, so this is going to return a random number from minus 0.15 to positive 0.15. It could be 0, 0.1, minus 0.1, and other values. We do the same thing for the vertical value as well. So we're going to type random.range. Then let's use minus 0.1f and positive 0.1f. Okay, so it should have a random direction every time we shoot. So now let's save this. We go to Unity. Let's wait once more for this compilation to complete. And now we press the play button. And once we do this, if we click, we shoot the bullet in different directions all the time. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. Okay, it's like we are testing the shooting of some tennis balls in a wall. And as you might have noticed, we have some infinite balls in here. They're not going to disappear. So to fix this, let's add some little lifetime logic for the bullet. So we're going to open the bullet script, and we're going to declare a variable here that is going to say public float lifetime, and let's set this 3f, so the bullets are going to last for 3 seconds. Now we declare the update method back here because we deleted that before, and now we're going to type lifetime minus equals time.delta time. So this is going to count down from 3 to 0, okay, and this works because we are in the update method. And we're going to type if lifetime is lesser than 0, it's time to destroy the bullet. Okay, actually lesser or equal than 0. And to destroy, we're simply going to type destroy and pass game object as a parameter. So we save this, we go back to Unity, and after this compilation is complete, we're going to press the play button, and we can shoot as many bullets as we want, but after 3 seconds, each of them are going to disappear. Okay, so this should be it for this video. In the next one, let's make another effect with prefabs when the bullets hit the wall.